This is the video for the Math Excel for section 3 of topic 1-3. There's 12 questions. We're going to go through this and hopefully it will help you with any questions you might have. Remember, again, when we do these Math Excels, they give you different numbers. So your numbers may not match up exactly with mine, but they will be the exact same problem, just different numbers. So you should be able to figure it out, be able to work it out, even if you don't have the same numbers. So the first question is probably one of the hardest questions, is how to find a certain fraction up a line, in this case 7/10 up the line from A to B. Now it's important where you're starting. It says we're starting with A, so make sure you're starting with A. And so remember, to do this, what we want to do is we want to find the horizontal and vertical distances. So this is the vertical, and I can't go straight, and this is the horizontal. Okay, so if we could find those two distances, then we can multiply those by 7/10 and then do them again, and that will make us, should land us right where we need to be 7/10 of the way up. So we can count, since we're on a graph, you can count. You don't have to actually do the subtraction, or you could just subtract. It'd be just as easy. But so we'll start with the horizontal here. If you look at the x values, this is -3 and this one is 12. You could just subtract those and you're going to see that it comes out to be 15. Or you could just count, and these are counting by ones. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you can count the boxes. Either way, you get 15. And then to get the vertical, you look at the y's. All right, the y over here is 7, the y over here is -5. If you subtract those, remember when you subtract a negative, you're adding really, so it's really 7 plus 5, which is 12. Again, if you want to just count those, you can count them and you would see that that's 12. So you got the horizontal, I'm just going to use H for horizontal, is 15, and you're going to multiply that by 7/10. So it's going to be 7/10 times 15. You can use a calculator if you want to with that, but it's going to be 21 over 2. Which is 10.5. All right, and then the vertical is 12, so you're going to go 7/10 times that. 7/10 times 12. Let's see, again, you can use a calculator, but that's going to be, let's see, 6 times 7, 4, 42 over 5. All right, which comes out to be 8 2/5. Okay, now this one's going to be a little bit tricky because of the fractions that we have. They don't come out to be nice and neat like we would like for them to come out to be, but that's okay. That's just part of it. Sometimes you've got whole numbers, sometimes you don't. All right, so what we're going to do is from point A, we're going to go over horizontally 10.5. So I'm going to go over 10.5. So if this is at -3 here, it means I'm going to go all the way over to 7. That would be 10. And then I'm going to go half more. So right in there. So let me actually get a different color here so we can see the difference. So I'm going to go over 10.5. Okay, and where does that hit? That makes me hit at 7.5 here on my x-axis. So I know that's where I'm going to be, and then I'm going to go up 8 2/5. Now this is a little tricky because of the 2/5, but you're going to go up 8. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 2/5. Look at it. Remember, it should hit that line exactly, and it does. So that's at 8 2/5. Now, so we got to think about that a little bit. So we know that if you look on the x-axis and come over, that's going to be at 7.5. So we know that the first number is 7.5. Okay, and that's the x value. Now the y value is how far is it above the x. So over here, you can count. Look across. So it's right in there. So you go up 1, 2, 3. And remember, we went up 8 2/5, so that little fraction there is 2/5. So it's 3 2/5. and that would be my answer. Okay. Now, when you type that in over here, you got to make sure that you put the comma in there and that you put the fractions in there. Now, you can change those fractions to decimals if you want. You could put 7.5, and that would be 3.4 as decimals. So either way would work fine there. Okay, so like I said, that's probably the hardest one, or close to the hardest one on that section. All right, next one says, describe the error that the student made trying to find the midpoint of CD. Well, you should be able to see that real quick, like right here. Remember, the formula for midpoint is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2, not minus. Those have minuses in there. So let's see. Yeah, part A would be the answer because the student did not add, they subtracted. So that was the mistake. Okay, that was pretty easy. Okay, this one says that the coordinates of point T are 0, 6. The midpoint of ST is 5, negative 5. Find the coordinates of point S. So we didn't have one like this when we were doing our examples earlier. So let's see if we can figure out how to do this. It says you got ST, and then you have a midpoint of that. Now it says that T, the point T is 0, 6, and the midpoint M, I'm going to call it M, is 5, negative 5. So the question is, what is the S? What goes here? Okay. All right. It's real simple. There's a couple ways. There's a formula to do it, but I have just a real easy way of doing this. Okay. How do you get from, look at your X and look at your Y separately. So look at your X here. The X in the midpoint is 5. The X in the T is 0. How do you get from 5 to 0? All right. Going this direction, it is 5. So you would go 5 to the right. So we need to go 5 to the left. So we went down 5 from the midpoint, down 5 to get to 0. So we need to go up 5 to get to the other X. So that would be 10. So if you go up 5 from 5, that would be 10. Okay. Now look at the Y value. Look at this one and this one. You're going from negative 5 to 6. So to go from negative 5 to 6, you're going to go up 11, right? If you add 11 to negative 5, that's going to take you up to 11. Now, so you need to go the other direction to get to X. So instead of going up 11, you're going to go down 11. So subtract 11 from 5, and that's going to give you negative 16. And that's your point. So your midpoint, remember, is in the middle. So if you go up to get to, if you're looking at the X, if you go up to get to the, or well, in the X value, if you go down to get to T, then you go up to get to S. If you go up to get to T, then you go down to get to S. You go the opposite direction. And that's just a simple way of doing the midpoint. And you don't have to memorize some big formula. All right, so the answer then would be 10, negative 16. All right. Okay, this is a little tricky. When it puts letters in there for the numbers, it does make it a little trickier sometimes. Some students struggle with this. It says, suppose that, well, draw a picture. That always helps. So we're doing PQ. Suppose that PQ has P to be AB. So we're going to say A, comma, B. And the midpoint, M, is C, comma, D. This is what's the expression for PM. So what's the distance for PM? All right, well, to do the distance, you got to do the distance formula. So it would be D equals, I'm going to write the formula out. The formula is x2 minus x1 squared plus y, sorry, should be a y, not an x, y2 minus y1 squared. Now, if you look up here, we can call this x1, y1, and you call this x2, y2, because we're doing from P to M, so we're just using these 2 points. Don't worry about Q right now. Just plug in. So that would be square root, and x2 would be C. So it's C minus x1, which would be A. So C minus A squared plus D minus B squared. So even though it doesn't have numbers, it's okay. You just still plug it in. So that is actually would be my answer. Because it doesn't have numbers, I can't go any further. Now let's go over here to this drop-down menu and see which one of these answers match up with mine. Okay. None of them really look like they do. But what's happened here is I've got C minus A and D minus B. If you look here at the very first one, they got A minus C and B minus D. Remember, we talked about that in the lesson part, is that's okay. You can switch them around as long as they're both switched around. So the first parentheses is switched, but so is the second, so it's okay. So that would be my answer there, the first one. Okay, so I'm going to check that answer, and it said, okay, I did it right. Now, this has 2 parts, so some of them have 2 parts. You got to be careful. It won't let you go on to the next one until you do the second part anyways. All right, now I want to know what would PQ be because of that. Well, we just found what PM is, and we know that M is the midpoint, so PQ is twice that size, right? Because if this is the midpoint, remember that those 2 are equal, so PQ is twice as big as PM. So that's what we're looking at, is we want something twice as big as this first one that we did. So we look, if you look right here, this second one right here is 2 times the first one. So that's twice as big. So there you go. There's your answer. Okay, that was a good thinking question. All right, let's go to the next. Okay, find the midpoint. All right, to find the midpoint, I'm going to write small here, x1 and y1, x2 and y2. That's what you put in there. So the midpoint, I'll write the formula just one time, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So I like the midpoint. It's just real simple. You just plug in and you'll get your answer. So that would be 6 plus 2 divided by 2. And then look back up here, it'd be negative 7 plus 3 divided by 2. All right, so my answer is 6 plus 2 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. Negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4, divided by 2 is negative 2. And there's your answer. And you're going to be happy with the next one because it is also a midpoint question, if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to do the same thing. I'm not going to write the formula down this time. It's just going to be, so I got x1, y1, x2, y2. So that's going to be negative 1 plus negative 3 divided by 2. That's your x's. And your y is going to be negative 3 plus 14 divided by 2. So my answer is going to be, all right, in the first one, I got negative 1 plus negative 3. It's negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And the second part, the y value, negative 3 plus 14 is 11. 11 divided by 2 is 5.5 or 5.5. Either one of those should work. All right. It could, one thing, it may make you write, instead of that, make you write it as 11 over 2. So if like 5.5 or 5.5 doesn't work, try that. All these things are different. Sometimes they make you do it one way, some make you do it another way. All right, now we're going to distance. Now, we can use the distance formula if we need it, but if we got a picture, let's not use the distance formula. Let's use the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or if you can write it like this would be better. It's c equals the square root of a squared plus b squared. So if you got a picture, draw your right triangles. So you got straight down, straight across, and go ahead and draw that there too. So you're looking for this. This is C right here. Okay. All right. We're going to let this be A and this be B. And then so let's just figure out what those two are. A, I can see there is 2. And B, I can count up and it's 4. Well, that's pretty easy. So just plug in. So C equals the square root. So put in 2 for A. So that's 2 squared. Put in 4 for B. 4 squared. So if I work that out, that's going to be 2 squared plus 4 squared. That's going to be 20. If you add that together, you can use a calculator if you need to. And it says round to the nearest tenth if needed. All right, so you would take your calculator and go square root of 20. And I'm pulling my calculator right now and doing that. And it's going to round to 4.5. It goes 4.47, but round to the nearest tenth means you have 1 decimal. So that 7 makes that other 4 round up to a 5. All right, again, that's pretty straightforward. All right, now it says, well, let's click on this little picture here. If you haven't done one like this before, click on the picture so you can see the picture. It says Cameron, Arthur, and Jamie are playing soccer. Their locations are recorded by a motion tracker system. The grid shows distances in meters. Who is closer to Cameron? All right, so you want to figure out who is closer to Cameron. So we need to figure out the distance from Cameron to Arthur, and we need to figure out the distance from Cameron to Jamie. All right, so let's do that. Let's do Cameron, Arthur first. Now, what's nice here is that it is a picture, so you don't have to do the whole distance formula. You can just do Pythagorean theorem. So if we're doing distance, so this way is 3, the vertical distance, and let me count this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is 8. So I'm going to come over here and we're going to say C equals square root a squared plus b squared. We're going to use that formula. And let's fill it in. So a would be 8. So it'll be 8 squared plus 3 squared. So that would be 64 plus 9, which would be 73. So square root of 73, let's do that and just see what that is. Now it says, it looks like we're rounding to the nearest whole number. So again, we'll round that. So if I take the square root of 73, I get 8.5, which should round up to 9. All right, and then let's do Jamie. So I'm going to do him on this other side. So I'm using the same formula. All right, well, I need to count here. So it's over 3 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 6. So I can already tell that Arthur is going to be further away because Arthur's is 3 and 8, and this is 3 and 6. So I can tell that it will be, but I need to get the answer because I think it wants me to put those answers in. So that's going to be 3 squared plus 6 squared. So that's going to be 9 plus 36, which would be 45. And if I take the square root of that, I think it's going to round up to 7. It's going to be 6.7, so it'll round up to 7. Okay. Now, let me close my picture. And let me put this 7 there. Okay, so it says Arthur is about 9 meters away from Cameron, and Jamie is about 7 meters away. So who is closer? It would be Jamie. Jamie is closer. All right. You can put all that in on your end. Okay, this one, again, it's just distance, and I like it when they give me a picture. I don't have to do the whole distance formula. But what we're doing, just looking at the picture, and we're trying to figure out what's the distance from B to C. You can read all that mess if you want to, but what you're trying to do is what's the distance from B to C. So we need to figure out what it is straight up and straight over. Okay, and then we can use the formula C equals square root a squared plus b squared. All right, if I can count, it's kind of small. Look like it's counting by fives. So notice that it's 5, 10, 15, 20. So if I'm going to count here, it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So it's 25 right there. And then if I count by fives up here, it's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. It's going to be 30. So there you go. You got your A and B. Just plug it in over here. So A would be 25 and B would be 30. Now I cannot do this one in my head, so I'm going to get my calculator out. And we're going to go 25 squared plus 30 squared. And it's going to give me 1525. And let's see, how does it want my answer? In approximate meters, so that means whole numbers. So I need to take the square root of 1525, and it's about 39. 39 meters. All right. Like I said, I really like it when we're doing distance problems and they give us a picture. So here's another one. They give you a picture. So just follow it. It says, what's the distance between J and K? So let's find, all right, here's J and here's K. Okay. Now, that blue line is not straight there, so don't think of that as your line. You just go ahead and you do your, well, I'm doing vertical first. So I'm going up, and then I'm going to go over. That's all we need is those two numbers. All right. Horizontally, all these count as ones. Always check that and see if it counts as twos or ones. They count as ones, so that's 3 horizontally. Now vertically, let's see, that's going to be a lot of count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. It's going to be 12. Okay, now just use the formula, Pythagorean theorem formula. We've been kind of nice here. We haven't had to use that distance formula very much on this one. So A would be 3. And B is 12. So that's going to be 9 plus 144, which would be 153. And we are, what do we round into? Round to the nearest tenth. So take that, put it in your calculator. Square root of 153. And you get 12.36. So round to the nearest tenth, that 6 is going to make that 3 bump up. So it's going to be 12.4. All right, so we got 2 more here. Let's go through these 2. You're fixing to hear an announcement. Just ignore that. I'm going to pause for this announcement to get over. All right, here we go again. All right, so thank you, Mr. George, for telling us we can go home. But I can't because I'm still working with you guys right here on the video. All right, so the midpoint is, so they don't have points like letters, but that's okay. You don't have to have it. So this midpoint is 17, 9. One of the endpoints, I'll put it over here, is 8, 18. Okay, so what we want to know is what's this point over here going to be. Okay, remember what I said earlier is you look at the 2 x's here. Okay, to get from the midpoint from here to this endpoint, you go down 9, right? 17 minus 8, that would be 9. So you go down 9. So now to get to this other endpoint, you need to go up 9. So if you add 9 to 17, so I'm doing 17 plus 9, that is 26. So 26 is going to go right here. Okay, now let's take a look at the y values. Okay, so now we're going to look at the y's. It's going from 9 to 18, so it's going from 9 to 18 means it's going up 9. So you need to go the opposite direction, 9. So go down 9, so this would be 0. 9 minus 9 is be 0. And so that would be your answer right there. Okay, again, that is a simple way. There's a weird formula you can use, or you can just do it that way. All right, now this last one is going to be the most lengthy one. It says you got a point here. So you got R, S, and you know that R is 6, -4, and you know the length is 17, but you're trying to figure out what is S. And you have 5 choices over here. So what you've got to do, and I've tried to figure this out, but there's no shortcut to it. You just got to use the distance formula and try each one of these for S. So first I'm going to try and see if for S, if I can use the first one, which is 23, 13. So this is always going to be my x1, y1 over here for my R. So I'm going to let this be x2, y2. And I'm going to do the distance. I have to do the formula this time, so I'm going to write the formula out one time. So it's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in and see if it gives me 17. If it doesn't, then I'm going to try another one. And I just keep going until I get the right answer. So this one, x2 minus x1, that would be 23 minus 6 squared plus, and then y2 minus y1, that would be 13 minus -4. Okay, so let's go through and simplify that a little bit. So work out what's in parentheses. So you got 23 minus 6, that's going to be 17 squared, and plus, and here 13 minus -4, that'd also be 17 squared. And now let me put that all in my calculator. So I'm going to go 17 squared plus 17 squared. And so that's going to be 578. And then I'm going to take the square root of that. And that is going to give me 24. Not the right answer. Okay, like I said, this is this one you just got to kind of keep working until you get the right answer. So that ain't going to work. So try something else. So I got to erase that. Try another S. Okay, so that one's out. So we'll just keep working through until we get the right S. Now I'm not going to keep writing the formula down. This time I'm just going to plug in the next one. So now I'm going to try this one, x1. I'm sorry, this is x2, y2. I'm just going to write over here so I don't have to keep writing those. So it's going to be 14 minus 6. Again, I'm using the second answer over here, plus 11 minus -4 squared. Okay, this time I'm just going to put all that in my calculator at once. I'm not going to break it down. So see, 14 minus 6 is 8, so it's going to be 8 squared plus 15 squared. All right, that gives me 289, and I take the square root. All right, we got the right answer. Sure, I was worried we were going to do all 5 of those before we got the right answer. So that gives me 17, which is what I was looking for. So B is the correct answer. I can stop there. And that's also the last question for this. So hopefully that helps you. And we are finished.